So here we go, the big reset. This is my friend Erik Ireland, and we're just having a little chat about some recent experiences he's had. Erik has a website, a podcast, a bunch of great meditations, sleep meditations, bedtime stories, and the summation of all that is called Listen to Sleep, and it's at listentosleep.com. Erik actually interviewed me not too long ago, and we made some nice content for his various media streams and his TikTok channel. And we just became friends. He's a great guy, and I've known him a few months now. So yesterday morning he messaged me, and the message was short, but it was profound. And then I said, as I do when I get these kinds of messages, I said, tell me more. What exactly do you mean by that? You know, that kind of thing. And it's pretty clear that there had been a significant alteration in identity there somewhere along the line. And anyway, so this is Erik Ireland, if you want to say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, maybe you could just fill us in a little bit more on how things played out yesterday morning.
Sure. Yeah. I had gotten up before sunrise, like I usually do, to go out and do my practices of natural meditation and inquiry, which was a combination I got from you. Thank you. I had been doing mindfulness meditation for a couple of years before that, but switching to those was very helpful. And I was out there for about an hour and a half, when I could feel something shifting. And I was also doing some of the just the natural seeing, you know, like, because I've been having longer moments of no thinking and opening my eyes during those times and realizing, wow, you really do get a different look at the world at that time when the labels aren't coming fast and furious. And these things all came together to just feel like I was losing the center. There was, you know, it just felt different than I'd ever felt. And that's kind of how I've been starting most days for a while now. So I thought, well, let's just go with this and see. And so I, at first, tried to like basically kind of tug on what felt like a crack. And then I thought, no, I can't fight my way into this. I've just got to let it go. And so I let it go. And this mantra came to me, which was, take me to the edge and let me fall, I think it was. And it was that thing that we had talked about in our interview that was one of the most interesting things to me about your book, and what hit me so hard when I read it the first time was that intersection of intention and surrender. Something in me went, there you go. There you go. Make a note. And so I went there, and that just led to what felt like, the best way to put it is a collapse. Something just collapsed, you know. Something that was there wasn't there, and what was there was different but completely familiar and much more spacious. And there was a lot of tears, like happy tears. There was a lot of laughing. There's still all day today. It's been tears and laughing and tears and laughing. Um, yeah. So that's
How
like
does
what
the
happened.
how does movement feel to you? Meaning just the movement of the environment, the movement of everything now.
Glorious.
Hmm.
I took a walk with Bodhi this morning up to feed the chickens, and Bodhi's my dog, and the being here. I mean, I live in in the middle of nowhere in nature, and so there I get that. I remember going out and kind of thinking to myself in the past, I I would love to feel more attached to this. I remember people saying, "Oh, you just get such a feeling of oneness with everything," and I'm like, "I'm okay." Like I would think, "Yeah, I'm like that tree," but it was a thought, you know. And today it was like, "Oh, that tree," like I can see the tree right now, and it's like a tree, you know.
Yeah.
It's the boundaries are, like I could sit and be somewhat like what felt like me the day before yesterday, but then I can also just like go, whoa, now there's no boundary.
Mm.
So I guess it mostly just feels like I'm getting used to a new uh, operating system or
Mm.
something.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, but yeah,
There's
that's how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't tell how people perceive things, like who's watching this will perceive it. But to me, it's just so obvious. And I don't even have to listen to what you're saying. It's the way you move, it's the way your eyes move, it's the cadence of the voice. There's a synchronicity to everything. And when the synchronicity recognizes itself and only itself, because there is only itself, it's just so clear. There's just clarity. It's not for someone specific. It's not a separate individual that feels the clarity or gains an awakening. It's nothing like that at all. All of that machinery of mind just kind of is seen. It doesn't even have to stop, but it's just seen to have never been what it appeared to be. And then you see what
Right.
tree really is. You feel what tree really is and what the sidewalk
What
is and what
walking really
walking
is,
is,
you know.
breathing. The simplest, quote unquote, mundane things just shine forth with brilliance. It's
Yeah.
what a joy to just literally be alive, to take the next breath.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. One of the other amazing things from yesterday morning was I've had these wind chimes that a friend of mine uh, gave me for my birthday like 10 years ago. I've just always loved. And as all this was happening yesterday morning, this little breeze started up and the chimes started chiming. And I've always been a audio centered person. And I have a pretty good case of tinnitus now at this point in my life. So I have a kind of a love hate relationship with hearing, but there was something about the whole thing of it, the sound of the creek, the sound of the chimes, even the sound of the tinnitus. It
Mm.
all came together in this like symphony of peace, of this like sounds that were another thing, not just sound, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I've had like colors. This happened to me like a month ago, um, when I had kind of one of like I guess what a like a pre something, which was kind of like this, but only lasted for a day. Um, I was tasting colors all day, and I've been tasting colors now too. Like it's just like, oh wow, that has a. It's not even on my tongue, but it
Mm-hmm.
has it comes with a sense. The seeing comes with another sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. you see, and it's fascinating too with the senses, especially the sense of sight. And I don't talk like this a lot because I think it can, well, one thing it can do is make people skeptical. Another thing it can do is confuse someone because the words don't really work. But it's amazing to look at something and see, it's like I see myself looking at it from it or something like that. Like I'm on both sides, but it's not a me. It's just a recognition of absolute intimacy, oneness, regard for just being alive.
Yeah, intimacy is a good word. It feels like that.
Yeah.
Like that
Like,
feeling
yeah.
of being with a friend that you can just sit next to and not talk.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And what a relief to not have to pick and choose experiences. There's no one there anymore going, oh, hey, this is what I want, and I don't want that. I don't want that sound. I want this sound. And we don't realize how much that actually filters out, not because we're actually changing sound, but because we're distracting ourselves into this inward sort of spiral of contraction and struggle with ourself, actually. And that doesn't have to continue. It can stop at any time, actually. When the conditions are right, it will. And if you're open to it, well, that's probably a good idea to be open to it. It's about all you can do, right?
Yeah, and that is a strange thing. That just reminded me of something that a moment that I think it was sort of what felt like the beginning of the shift or whatever happened was there have been so many times I've watched a video with you or in your book, even like the chapter on inquiry. It had like some very like abrupt pointing, which was like, and right now. And I was like, oh, like I would literally just like go right to the edge right then and be like, huh, and I'd freeze up or, I was like, I could feel it. I got what you were saying, but it wasn't time.
Timing. Yeah.
And I think something about all those times of going to the edge of like all the pointing of look here,
Mm-hmm.
just whatever is there or it is or why ever this happens or happened or whatever happened or doesn't, I don't know, but it it is tied into that, but that helped at that moment when I could let go. I think when I felt like I was being offered the chance to let go, I could because of all the lifetime of help that I'd gotten from others, and most recently, from you.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, is that we often learn about this kind of stuff, or, awakening or Buddhism and stuff, and first of all, we have a mental construct about it, or we have this idea, we think it's going to occur to us in some way. The ideas are structured that it's going to give us something we want or think we're going to get or something. And then we kind of go, okay, well, it's not that. It's not an intellectual thing. So then, and it's not a future thing. It's not, I know if I strive for the future, I'm kind of going into my thoughts. So what the heck is it? And what it really is just a willingness. I'm not sure you can make yourself fall off the cliff, but you can be willing to if you get close. And that willingness to just let yourself dive deep, through whether it's transmission, through meditation or inquiry or the right book or teacher or video or whatever it is, just allow yourself to just go deep. Just let it go. And you'll hit a fear barrier of some sort at some point. And you'll recoil, but just do it a few times, do it several times, do it as many times as it takes. And I promise you, a deeper instinct than anything you take yourself to be right now will come online. It'll say, oh yeah, I know this place. I'll go. It's safe. It's totally safe to go there, and and it'll happen. And what you said is right. You've been willing to make that step, or just let go long enough that the conditions just lined up for it. And it's a synchronicity thing. It's a timing thing. You can't control and muscle it to happen, but you can damn well be willing to let it happen to the degree you can. And that'll evolve to the point where you're more and more open, whether you know it or not.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about this happening to people who didn't know what was happening or hadn't, like they just sort of accidentally. I could see how that would be scary, because it really, in some ways it's very subtle, but in other ways it's very not, I'm so grateful for, I'm in my mid 50s now, and I started really being a seeker at 19. And if you'd have told me at 19 that it was going to take more than 35 years for this to happen, I don't know what I would have done. But I look at it now and I'm like, it just all seems so perfect. Yes, of course, this is exactly, it's all yes,
Yep. Exactly. I know exactly what you mean by that. And the world of the mind is the world of too long or not long enough, or going too fast or too slow, or but the world of this, the reality, life, the way life presents itself is so simple, makes so much sense in its simplicity, and it's right on time. It really is. It's right on time. So that's why I never push people on this stuff. I let them go at their pace for sure. And occasionally I push if they want me to, if they're really struggling with something and they tell me they want me to, push them or, help them really see some fixation they're not quite seeing and they're seeing around it. Like I'll do that sometimes, but generally I always let people go at their pace. And that may be, they might come in contact with me for a few exchanges and they don't come back for 6 months. I don't bug them. I mean, it has to be your pace. And there's something in you that knows what that pace is. And you have to sometimes take care of some other things first and figure out the relationship stuff or whatever. And that's all fine. It's all totally fine. It really works out so well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. It works out. That's another thing I've heard you say is that everything is going to be fine, and I have always had some sense of that, but I have never had this sense of that.
I've heard Adyashanti say things like, no matter what happens, when we're clear, when the realization is clear, it's obvious that everything is unimaginably okay. Yeah. And that's plenty. That's enough. That's that peace, that deep, profound peace that passeth all understanding.
Yeah. And
with that comes prajna wisdom, sort of transcendent wisdom. You trust life, you trust yourself in the relative self, and trust that the energetics of the moment. You trust that you can just love everything that's right in front of your face, and everything will take care of itself. It's fine.
So it's like I think when I was writing about it this morning, I just really, it feels like falling, but there's no ground. Like I'm not going to hit anything, and there's this sense of freedom to that just like naturally sort of like comes with a little curiosity and a lot of like love and acceptance, but also like what is, it's like if you were literally falling, everything would always be changing, but it would always be the same. You're always falling, and it's sort of like what it feels like. The outside's always different, but here I am just falling, still falling.
Yeah. I remember very distinctly something shifting for me all those years ago when I went through this. that was so surprising. And I know exactly what it is now, but there's no words for it. But I'll try to say what it felt like. And I was so surprised by it. It was, what I didn't realize is before something shifted or something stopped happening in my mind, I think mostly, I didn't realize how much effort I believed I had to put into everything, into thinking, into not thinking, into feeling, into people, into life, into myself. Everything just felt like effort. And I had no freaking idea how much effort I was putting into. What I was actually putting effort into was running away from what I wanted. When I just stopped putting the effort, you realize what effortlessness actually is. And then I realized the effort was actually moving away from everything in a way. And all of a sudden it just turned around and now I was moving towards everything. But it wasn't me. Everything moves towards itself. Everything moves into itself. It just endlessly moves into itself. It endlessly dissolves into itself. It endlessly knows itself wordlessly, and it endlessly rejoices in aliveness. Yeah. It's so wild, and it just keeps happening everywhere. It's like the sound, the cadence of life, the breath, even the death of this body mind, which will happen, before too long, really, in the relative terms. It's all perfectly natural, perfectly orchestrated, and completely benevolent. Yeah. And that's directly obvious for some reason.
Yeah. And it even things like I remember thinking that I may never, this may not work for me because I've just, I've got too much resistance. I'm not going to be able to get past that. Maybe this is for another lifetime. And then to realize that even the resistance is fine. It's just part of it. It's not, it's not bad just because it's resistance. What was bad was my resistance of the resistance, like the just going, oh, resistance is here, made even resistance like something that could kind of help. And for years I thought, this is my Achilles heel. This is why it's not going to work for me. Like I'm too much of a, I'm too much of a resistor. But even that, I guess that's that there's no part that isn't a part of this.
Exactly. So it's so funny, that resistance thing, like it as you're saying it, I'm inclined to say, resistance, of course, is just what's happening. It's totally fine. But there's this weird belief that I'm the one resisting, or like I'm on one side of it or something. That's what causes a weird
duality, like by its very, it like is, it's probably one of the most duality reinforcing mental constructs we can, like obsess with.
Yeah.
Like if you want to fight, that's the good one, I think,
Yeah. Right.
Either that or maybe like addiction is really good for, just if you want a good duality fight, you're up for that. That's a good place to look. Right.
Yeah.
And I've been through all that in my life, like and it never got me what I wanted, It was always about trying to replace peace with pleasure.
Yeah.
And that and seeking pleasure only leaves you with displeasure. And that's the duality of it, right? Yeah, you can have pleasure, have all the pleasure you want. It's like it's
trying to put your finger on the scale. I mean, there's going to be some pleasant things, there's going to be some unpleasant things. None of that's a problem. But when we start to reify this sense of the one who's moving toward something pleasant and away from something unpleasant, we're bound up in this struggle that doesn't actually exist, strangely. But it's funny because the way I point people, if they're moving through this process, waking up and stuff, is quite varied based on them. And so for some people, like, they have such a dynamism with that, with the struggle and work, and they want to push. Great, let's do that. Let's just turn that in on itself. Let's use all of that struggle, all that energy, all of that drive to just find out, who am I? Let's look and find out what's actually there. What's actually there?
Yeah.
Let's look, and that's kind of moo, or one pointed it, is just taking, it's like, okay, the human ego is a seeking mechanism. Let's just hone it down and point it right at its own source and see what's actually there, if anything at all.
Yeah,
So
right.
there's a lot of ways to wake up.
Um, the first thing I thought when I read about the two different kinds of inquiry is, like I'm definitely more of a self-inquiry guy. Like take it slow, take some steps, and all. Like I'm not a type A personality who's gonna beat this thing, and that's kind of what one point had looked like to me when I first read about it. But then I think the combination
Hmm.
is pretty lethal.
Yeah. It kind of catches fire at some point,
Yeah.
and it gets the fire really is this natural fire. It's the will to be actually, but the will to be gets co-opted into the mind of the will to be me separate. That's not
Right,
what's
right,
real. There's a will to be. The tree has a will to grow and grow towards the sun and all of it fine. But when it becomes my will, my life, and you're trying to defend it and it's all cognitive, yeah,
right.
that turns into a major struggle. But when you get through the internal struggle and the strife and the energy going in all these directions in the mind, and you start to actually get down to the root of it, you'll start to feel that fire, that drive that we all have, that will to be, and you can turn it back in and see and turn it on itself, and that's that sort of one pointed. There's a deep and profound curiosity in all of us, and there's also a warrior spirit in all of us to some degree or another at some
Yeah.
point. Yeah, and that's. But you're right. It's a balance, and there's this. It's the hero journey. The hero is the hero, and it goes on the journey. He goes on the journey, but he also has a lot of accomplices, and he has the natural elements that help the journey go. You can't have the hero without the journey and the world. The hero is moving through.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
it's like
being my Yoda,
so.
Angela.
Yeah, yeah. I had a lot of Yodas myself. Yeah, the Dharma
They're the
wheel. Yeah, we're
best.
all just turning the Dharma wheel.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty beautiful.
It is.
It's pretty beautiful.
Oh man, I'm just happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
and your family,
happy.
your fiance, your Bodhi. Bodhi's fine already anyway. He knows this stuff. This stuff's old hat to him.
Well, that's the other funny thing is around the time that we talked, I was just full of questions about like what is mind and like how much mind does a dog have? Like Bodhi has mind, like there's mind there, but there's not other stuff that that comes with the kind of mind I was looking at.
Hmm.
I'm just kind of, but I would see like this sort of like perfect synergy of mind and instinct and heart and senses, and just this like if I grab the car keys, we're going for a ride, and he doesn't, nothing about what was happening a second before matters now.
Yep.
Now it's car time, and
Yeah.
this just like amazingly in the momentness. Um, and I was kind of thinking about this a little bit yesterday morning while I was still crying and laughing and pushing on the edges of stuff and going, what is this new room like? Oh, there's no walls. Um, but I was thinking, is this because like the Buddha had his experience and started teaching, like, that was like 2000 BC, right?
2500. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. But it
Or
was
I'm sorry.
after,
No. 500 BC.
oh, it was 500 BC,
So
2500 years ago.
yeah.
500 years before Christ.
Yep.
That I've often wondered, and this kind of goes back to a book I've been trying to write. What were we like 50,000 years ago, sitting around a campfire? If you and I were, in a cave as Neanderthals or early Homo sapiens, what would our mind, heart, spirit, that humanness have been like? And there's a part of me that thinks this is how we all started. And then we got civilization. And somebody went, hey, we could do it this way.
Hmm.
And that was so seductive that we all started to play this game of teasing ourselves with pleasure and
Hmm.
control and all of that. And because this feels very natural. It just feels like I lost something I didn't need, you
Yeah.
know?
You know,
I don't know,
brings
I
me,
mean, that's a philosophical question, but
yeah.
it kind of comes back to that thing of like, okay, Bodhi has this mind, and it's a mind that works differently without all the encumbrances,
Hmm.
you know? Did we have that too?
Right.
Do we still? Are there people still on this planet who have it naturally and never don't have it? I
Great
don't know.
question. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
So this brings me to an interesting question for you, and that is, I get different types of questions from people who are interested in awakening, right? Different sort of, maybe I could say categories of questions. One category I get on occasion um, is that the person is asking me a question that's very philosophical. Like they're like, okay, does your term this mean this term in Buddhism? And I feel right away they're trying to add to their mental framework. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to be not rude about it, but I also try to point them to like, I kind of don't want to answer that for you. I don't want to just give you more concepts. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
at the same time, I know they have a thirst for knowledge, but they're misinterpreting what that thirst is actually for. They think the thirst is to understand, but the real deeper thirst, probably, if they're talking to me and they've read some of this stuff and so forth, the
Right.
deeper thirst is actually for what we're talking about. And yet they still think it's for knowledge, right? So I walk that line with them sometimes and try to kind of guide them down into like, let's look at what's just preconceptual and so forth. But I guess what I want to ask you, have this so fresh, can you compare like that intellectual curiosity about the big questions in life and all that, how you might have been pondering that 6 months ago versus how important that is right now for you to ponder?
That's a good question. Importance wise, it's not important now.
Yeah,
It was important then. Interest wise, still interesting. You
sure.
know, there's so much curiosity right now. Like, whew, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm curious about everything. You know, like my fingers and my toe. I'm like a little baby in a lot of ways, I think. But so I guess it ties into that. It's curiosity.
Hmm.
So, and I think what you're particularly good at is like picking at you or fostering curiosity without giving answers. Because
Hmm.
you know, more curiosity is good. More answers maybe not so good. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
um, and I felt like the times that we talked, um, you got my curiosity, but you know weren't giving answers. You were fostering that curiosity, and I
Yeah.
think that is super useful
Yeah.
because
I'm
I
glad
think
to hear that.
curiosity can get you there. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's a big
Absolutely. You know,
part of it.
yeah.
You know,
Just keep going to the root of anything. You know,
yeah,
the root of
anything.
curiosity. What's the more fundamental curiosity? You know, just follow it down. You know, like you follow anything down to its source, its root, and you'll find like your curiosity is also natural wonder.
Yeah,
Just the natural wonder of being alive. Of course
yeah,
it is, and trust it. It's great. Just don't settle for a conceptual answer, you know, because that's the raft of holding. You know, conceptual stuff is fine too, but when we're talking about awakening, you gotta
right.
put first things first. You really gotta know what's what with this stuff. And so, yeah, I do try to foster that curiosity. I try to, I don't know about redirect, but help people feel back into, well, why am I curious about that in the first place? Why, you know,
Right.
what is the deeper curiosity? What's
But you're
because I
right.
know everybody has that. Of course they do. It's
Answering the
their true
question
nature.
wouldn't help.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
like it's just kind of like okay, but
Hmm.
um, yeah. So I do think that it isn't important now, but still interesting.
Sure. Yeah. Isn't
You
that
know,
funny though, right?
yeah,
And that's the beauty of it. It's like sometimes what I say in these situations to people is I say, I would never rob you of the chance to find out yourself. I want to see what you're going to say when these things start shifting for you, when the scaffolding of identity falls out, I want to hear your answer to that question instead of me just feeding you either a conceptual answer or my own experience in the moment, which I will answer differently in 5 minutes anyway, because everything changes all the time.
And it wouldn't
I
help.
probably don't have any fixed answer to anything really,
Yeah.
So
Because the answer wouldn't bring the thing they're looking for that will bring the answer.
yeah,
It doesn't work that way.
yeah, right,
You
exactly.
can't just give the answer. It's not like a test you can cheat on. You can't just give the answer and then, okay, now now you're a doctor or you're a whatever, like, no, it's not like that. You gotta, the answer comes like that when it comes, like that's the weird part.
I want you to live the answer. I don't want you to believe you know the answer,
Right.
I want you to get to this place that's so obvious to you that just like you said, it doesn't actually matter. What those answers, any of those questions, they're interesting. Sure, they're interesting, but does it actually matter? And then you just notice like the sky, and you put your hand on your dog. That says 1,000 times more than a conceptual answer.
Yeah.
It feels good, huh?
It does. It does feel good. Body feels good. Mind feels good. Thoughts feel good.
No problem.
How'd that happen?
Right.
And for so long, I think I thought this was the end of thoughts.
Right.
And it kind of is.
Yeah.
I guess, because they're different. But it's because that to me it was like there was a constant commentator there, going, oh, good thought, bad thought, shouldn't, this is just like, and there was just no way to turn it off. It was like all thoughts came with a whole list of comments. And now the comment section is gone, which is a good thing in a lot of ways.
It's so funny. So funny. No pushing and pulling. What a wonderful gift that we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
There was a line from the Bible, and I have no idea how it hit me after awakening, but it might have been the number one thing that went through my mind, like as awakening was unfolding, and it was, have you suffered so many things in vain? That was it. Like, had I suffered so many things completely in vain, like believing it had done something for me, like believing that suffering, that my self-imposed suffering was getting me something or whatever, it was just unnecessary.
Yeah.
And what a relief.
Yeah.
And then again, the suffering leads you to the edge too, so it's all good.
Right. Yeah. It isn't. It's not a mistake or bad or it feels so much like that at the time. Like I'm doing it wrong. Then it doesn't. Then a whole lifetime of doing it wrong feels perfect.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Because what's a lifetime, right? What's a lifetime right now anyway? It's really a thought. It's one thought. It's crazy.
So is. It so is. And what's the future?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, have you ever left this?
No.
No.
No, never did. But was pretty, did my damnedest to ignore it.
Yeah.
I think was what happened. Why? I haven't a clue,
Yeah.
Like just, but that's another, like, just curious. I'm like, why?
Part of the fun, part of the conundrum.
Yeah, but who cares? The answer's not important, but interesting. Like, why? Why wouldn't help anyone else? Wouldn't help me, but it's like,
And someone might be asking themselves, well, what's next? And the beauty of it is there's nothing next. Next is a thought.
You sent me something yesterday, you know, that was just like, you know, like just let it deepen, or it'll just deepen. And or I can't remember exactly what you said, but I was like, yeah, that's exactly what my instinct is with that. Mm-hmm. Like, this knows where to go.
Yeah.
You know, this knows where to go.
Yeah. Strangely, it does deepen. It does clarify itself. Not in time. There's no time for that to happen, and then it just happens.
Yeah.
And you feel it happening. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be fun. Guess. I don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, any last advice you might give anyone who's watching this, who's interested in this process, who's been seeking?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Might take 35 years. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There were just many times in my life where I gave up, you know, like a fought against this. Seems so silly now. Yeah. If you feel like giving up, I mean, or give up, fine. I don't know that you can't. I don't know if you can really fight it if you wanted to, or push it if you wanted to, or I mean, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's my advice. Do whatever you want. How's that for profound?
It doesn't get any better than that, man.
Oh, Angelo, I'm so grateful for you and this community of people that you have around you, and so happy and grateful to be a part of it. So thank you.
I'm just happy for you, man. Just to, you know, share that with your loved ones and your environment, yourself, and nothingness and everythingness, and it's well deserved, you know. And I really look forward to seeing you share this deeper instinct of presence that you already had it, and obviously there's another dimension to it now. Also, hopefully we can do another interview like this or another conversation in the near future, just to kind of, you know, people will want to hear how you're doing and stuff. So just
sure, anytime. Yeah,
man.
You know, I'm always here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Erik. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Angelo. Take care.
All right. Bye.